Hi, this is part 4 of the NuTone 2500 stereo receiver rebuild. When we left off last time, I was working on the preamp board and the intercom board. I have both of those done now. You can see all the new capacitors on the preamp board, and on the intercom board there are just 3. There's one down here, a little hard to see. And then these two, these are unusual packages. These are Vichy, and these are a flame-proof plastic encased capacitor. I chose these because that's what was available. Not a lot of choice in that type of value for that size, so that seemed like a good choice. Now I'm going to move on today and work on the rest of the receiver. So the next step is to do the tone and volume control board, which is a little hard to see. It's down in here. It's one of the least accessible boards in some ways. So what I've got here is I've got the amplifier assembly, which is this. It's this chassis piece with the 2 amplifier boards here, and then the outputs on the side. These 2 pieces are riveted together, so I can't take that apart. So what I've done is I've got it set up on the bench, and I've got the chassis assembly supported by this piece of cord to hold it up out of the way. What you don't want to do, or what I don't want to do on this, is to be continually bending this back and forth every time I have to put a component in, and stressing all the wires and all the other connections, because if things start to snap loose, then it's just a lot more work. So I think this way I can reach down inside and gain access to the components I need to replace, solder them in place, and just put this assembly back down. So more in a bit. Hi, I'm back. So I've got the tone and volume control board done, which is this board down here. Let me zoom out. This is this board down here. So having the amplifier assembly tied up out of the way worked fairly well. It gave me good access to both sides of the board without having to move things around a whole lot. So that's all done. Now I'm going to move on to the 2 amplifier boards, which are here, A channel and B channel. These are identical boards, and it shouldn't be too hard to work on each side of them to replace the capacitors that need to be replaced, and to take a quick look at all of the transistors that are on them. Here's the back side of the amplifier boards. So the access is pretty good. You do have these large multi-pin Molex connectors on the shelf that's part of the chassis on the back of the unit, and that makes getting to the lower board a little bit more tricky, and I might pop those out of the way just to give myself a little better access. Again, always being careful and not wanting to bend the wires around any more than you have to, because we don't want to have to start fixing wires in Molex receptacles. So as soon as I get the top board done, I'll be back, and then I'll do the bottom. Alright, so I've got the A channel amplifier board rebuilt. You can see all the new components when you compare it to the B channel board down here, which I'm going to do next. And on the back side, to make doing the B channel a little easier, I've taken the Molex connectors out of the bracket, so I can tilt this forward and get better access to the back of the board. So now on to channel B. Alright, so we're back. I've got the second B channel amplifier board rebuilt. So it's identical match to the A channel. Now I'm going to move around to the end. These are the 4 output transistors, and there are 2 thermal diodes, one there and one down there. And they monitor the temperature of the heatsink and adjust the bias on the output transistors automatically, so it doesn't run away with heat and destroy the amplifier or the output transistors. I'm going to pull the transistors off the heatsink. I'm going to clean off all the old thermal paste, test each transistor, and then put new insulators. These are large Motorola style TO3 transistors. I'll show you when I get them off. And they sit on this. This is a mica insulator. It's underneath each one. All right, so I've got the 4 output transistors taken off, and I've cleaned, and I took off all the old insulators, which are right there, and cleaned off all of the old heatsink compound, and checked the 2 diodes. They're good. And here are 4 output transistors. It's important when you do this I prefer to put them back in the same position that they came out of, so they're in line top to bottom as they came off the chassis. Here are the 4 old mica insulators. The reason to replace these is they do tend to crack. These were really stuck onto the aluminum heatsink, and the thermal compound gets hard and doesn't really do its job. The point of the thermal compound, and what I use is this, it's a pretty standard product you can buy almost anywhere online, is to it gives you a better thermal bond between the case of the transistor and the aluminum heatsink. You don't want to go crazy when you put the thermal compound on the insulators or on the transistors. The purpose of it is to fill the microscopic voids in the metal, so you get a better bond and the heat will transfer off the transistor body better than without it. So you don't need to go crazy. You don't really need it squishing out the sides of the transistors. You just need to have a very, very thin coat. Also, I misspoke before, on these 203s, the case is the collector. The pin, this is the emitter, and this is the base, and the body is the collector. So I'm going to re-grease them, put new insulators, and put them back in place. We're almost ready to put this thing back together and give it a try. Back again in a bit.